Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Exponential Potential. And this is like one of my favorite sessions that we do, where we interview and have a conversation with my glamorous co-host.
Yeah, put a bit of face on, put a bit of glow on, make me feel good.
My glamorous co-host, Jen Evans, who's with us today. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Claire. Lovely to see you. We haven't seen each other for 10 days or so. It's, you know, feel like my arm's been chopped off.
I know. And well, you've been on hollybobs and everything like that, so much sunnier places to be. But listen, we've had a hell of a time, and kind of I've had some great interviews, and you've had some great interviews in the meantime, and we're launching into a new topic, which I can't wait to tap into your expertise in. And so this month we're looking at sabotage and self-sabotage.
Yes, we all do it. And today we are really focusing on sabotaging our happiness. But it's interesting because when who wants to sabotage happiness? Who wants not to be happy?
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we do that we're not aware of, we're not conscious of, that really create unease and unhappiness, and that take away from that happiness. So we're going to dive in today about what that looks like and how we can stop doing that and create more joy and happiness in our lives.
And when we plan through the topics, we look at the areas that we think that kind of our listeners are going to benefit from most, and with the work that you do with so many women internationally, there must, kind of imagine there are a lot of patterns that come through that you see, particularly around this area of sabotage. So guys, you're in for an absolute treat.
Yes. Yeah, I think the first step is sort of really noticing and becoming aware of our behaviors, of what creates sabotage. So sabotage is, it's when we do something, we want to be somewhere. So for example, we want to be happy, but we do things mostly unconsciously to stop that from happening. So there are things in our way. There are beliefs and thoughts and feelings, how we feel about ourselves, that get in the way of what we want to achieve. And that's what creates a sabotage. I had a really good conversation with Tony Wang about that in our first episode. That's our first episode of sabotage. So highly recommend you tap into that as well. So some of the things, and Claire, if you think about some of the things that you see, or you do even, that you're sabotaging yourself because you're very aware. Maybe in the past when you weren't so aware, what was some of the things that you did?
So I think in some areas it's really hard to kind of disconnect the sabotage and the fears. So I know, for example, very often I would sabotage success by pushing harder.
Yes.
Go, I'm not there. So I need to be there. I need to be there.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it creates like a completely different energy around you. It's a bit more of a desperation. It's not intended as that, but it stems from a fear that it will all go away, that you're not worthy of the success, or that you haven't worked hard enough, or it's just down to luck. And so sometimes kind of driving harder to achieve success is definitely one of them, because you're just like, you get there.
I would definitely, that's one that's high up there when we're pushing. and we're holding on to an outcome really tightly, which is linked into our expectations. We expect to be somewhere, we want to be there, and there's an impatience about that. And impatience can be good. We can create momentum with impatience, but when we're pushing and we're holding on to that outcome really, really tightly, we're not leaving any room for the magic to happen. We're creating stress when we do that. And stress is a form of self-sabotage, and the fear and the worry, worrying about what other people think, the judgments we put on ourselves and the judgments we think people have around us. That's a really big one. You were going to add something else as well there, Claire.
I was going to add around relationships, and sometimes looking at relationships, and as a mum and as a wife, I know that kind of to try to keep a balance, I'm like checking in, how's that going, and like even this morning my boys said, Mum, you're so annoying, just back off, everything's all right, I get so pissed off with you. It's like, and actually I think that sometimes when you've got a strong desire for your own happiness and the happiness of people around you, you worry, and then you fret, and then you check, and then you like adjust, and then you kind of you try to get it just right.
You wanting to keep the environment, the home environment, happy, or and that I see that and I'm sure I'd be the same, because I'm told by my brothers that I'm bossy. Probably was a bit more bossy than I used to be, but I can be a bit bossy. And I certainly, in my younger days in partnerships, I was certainly controlling in the way of, I wanted things done a certain way and in a certain time. And that's linked to expectations as well. And it's, wanting to make sure everything is okay. And I see my friends with children do it with their partners and their children, trying to control everything, feeling like that you're sort of managing everybody. You feel like you have to manage everybody. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners right now that, even if you don't have children, still feel like they have to manage everybody. They have to manage their family. They have to manage their friends. That's a big one. But it's kind of, let them do them. You do you, let them do them. And a client of mine in the past was really focused on other people's happiness. So whenever she created an event, whether it was a birthday, a barbecue, a celebration for somebody, she felt responsible for everybody's happiness. So she would bend over backwards and get herself so stressed before the event happened. And it would just become this massive thing. And of course, she couldn't enjoy any of it. She would usually have a meltdown and probably have an argument with her partner, or get annoyed with somebody, or irritable and frustrated and angry, and she would not enjoy it. Yeah. That's changed. She realizes actually that's, we are all responsible. I feel like I'm shouting. We are all responsible. We're all responsible for our own happiness. And yes, you can add to somebody's happiness, and yes, you can take away from somebody's happiness, but everybody is responsible for their own happiness. We can't make somebody else happy. We can create an environment for that. So yes, I think trying to make everybody happy and people pleasing is a big part of that, is actually sabotages our own personal happiness.
Oh, and ironically, sabotages the happiness of everybody around you here in that example that you gave.
Yeah.
I think probably the other area that I've seen in myself and other people is around either diets or saving, and kind of you spend so long like in a particular pattern, you go, well, I've been really good now, so I'm going to have like yesterday, it's like, I'm going to have an entire family pack of Skittles and just munch them through, and then just like not really like myself very much after. It's like, oh, why did I do that? So I think kind of in some ways it's it's a okay, you're on the steady, and then you kind of fall off the wagon, and then just like, oh, Why?
Yeah, and I think diet's a whole other conversation that I could spend a long time on, but I'm just, my my mum, she is 85 and she has dieted her whole life. And she's still now, she has made lifestyle changes, but she still uses the word diet in her vocabulary. And, she does sort of, I've lost the word now, but she doesn't eat things that she would really like to eat. And as she's 85, and yes, there's some, there's a bit of exercise that's needed and things like that, but she's 85 and she's still so food focused around diet. She enjoys her food as well, but before, she did some crazy diets when she was, when I was growing up. Yeah. And that totally sabotaged her well-being, her happiness, her energy levels. So, she was so focused on that. So yes, that's a really good one.
So why do we do it? Why, kind of what's at the roots of sabotage?
Well, there's several things. So we create these patterns and behaviors that ultimately come from a belief of a personal previous experience. So it's based on previous experiences, whether that's growing up, whether that's with previous partners, and whether that's at work, at school. And we have, our brain creates thoughts, and those thoughts, if we think them enough, become a belief, and then that belief becomes a behavior and a pattern. And those beliefs and thoughts are usually negative around ourselves. They're around not feeling good enough, not feeling loved enough, not feeling worthy enough. So these behaviors and patterns are either to prove ourselves and want acceptance, or they're keeping us safe and protected. We want to keep ourselves safe and protected, but when you look at, and relationships is a big one for that, I think, because it's such a big part of our lives, and happiness, when we're happy in a relationship, it makes such a big difference to our world. But if you look at all those, and I'm not sure if I think it's men more so than women. If they've had their heart, I know I certainly came across a lot of men in this realm. Self-esteem is another one, low self-esteem. But a lot of men are unavailable emotionally. So because they've shut themselves down because they don't want to get hurt again. So they've been hurt once, their heart's been broken. And it happens for women too, but my feeling is my own personal experience, it seems to happen more in men. Women behave a different way, but they shut down their emotions and their feelings, and then they find, they build up this big wall to protect themselves, but they're sabotaging they're sabotaging to really feel and be open to receiving a loving, connected relationship. So then they appear like assholes. Mm-hmm. But most of those are because they have been hurt in the past.
Yeah, that kind of hurt, and that if I don't get excited, I won't be disappointed.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And women, sort of their protection, you look at women, the way a lot of women behave in a relationship, there's a lot of expectations there because they feel like they need to feel loved. So I had another client that expected her partner never bought her flowers, and she had all these expectations. I want my partner to do this. I want my partner to do that. I want him to buy me flowers. I want him to take me off for a romantic weekend, or be spontaneous and take me out for a romantic meal, take me out for a nice romantic walk. Who does that? Not some men do, but a lot of men, oh, come on, darling, let's go for a nice romantic walk. I don't know many men that do that. And in my relationship, it's usually me that does the suggestions. Let's do this, let's do that. And before, I would get really mad about it and really angry. So when somebody's not living up to your expectation, you get angry, you get frustrated. you feel that you're not loved. So then that causes issues in the relationship. With my client, she realized the expectations that she was having, and she also realized, well, that doesn't mean that he loves me any less just because he doesn't buy me flowers. It's lovely to receive flowers, but it doesn't mean to say that they don't love you. And the whole thing, well, expecting messages back within a certain amount of time from your partner, whether it's male or female. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they've got a lot on their plate right now, and it's making it about you. So when we make it about ourselves, like we make other people wrong, we're making it about ourselves. So they don't love me because they're not doing this, 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 and this. So we're sabotaging our happiness there. And another really big one, especially in relationships, and that's not just love relationships, that's in family, that's at work, is being right. The amount of importance that we put on being right, which also links into being heard. And that is also part of needing to prove ourselves, not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough. When we feel like we need to prove something, when we need to prove that we're right, it's because we don't feel good enough. We don't feel valued. So that, that's so that's, and the protection and the safety are the biggest things, I think. The reasons why we self-sabotage. We have a belief that we're not good enough. So therefore, we're either not going to try or we're going to try too hard.
So kind of how it feels like it's a very human thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, our brain, we have a large piece of our brain that is so focused on our safety. The flight response, fight or fight, flight or fight. I think I said fight or fight then. Flight or fight response. So our brain is wired to keep ourselves safe. But one of the questions is, well, what if you didn't need to? What if you didn't need to continue protecting yourself? Unless it's in a life or death situation, which it rarely is. What if you didn't need to continue protecting yourself and feeling safe? What would your life look like then? What would you do? And I think that's a really powerful question to ask ourselves. What are we actually protecting ourselves from? And because we're protecting ourselves, what are we stopping? What are we not allowing in? What are we missing out on?
It's so tricky in relationships, isn't it? And particularly long-term relationships, because you think, oh, you worry that it's like an all or nothing, and for sure. Right. What do you shift? That's so. So go back to the cake example then. Kind of, what happens if we stop the sabotage? What happens if we break the cycle?
I'm just going to breathe, because when you think about what happens when we stop self-sabotage, what happens when I stop people pleasing, when I stop worrying about what other people think, if I stop pushing, striving for perfection, when I let go of control. And that is such a scary thing for people, to let go of control. But what would really happen? What would you allow in? And for me, that just feels like such a sense of freedom when we no longer self-sabotage, when we no longer care what other people think about us. I think is one of the biggest things that you can do in terms of transformation, is stop caring about what other people think of you. And I don't mean that from a point of I'm going to lack integrity, have no transparency. I'm going to be mean. It's more not caring what other people think about what you're doing, like bringing back the focus on, not the focus on it's how other people behave is about me, because it's not, it's about them. When you truly stop worrying about other people's judgment and let go of that judgment, it just is such a massive sense of freedom, and it gives you the courage to step into flow and ease, and you become aligned with what you want. Everything, the possibilities just start showing themselves clearly and obviously. And you create more joy, you create more flow, as I said, ease and flow, you create fulfillment. And that's where you truly can thrive and flourish, when you're in that zone of, I don't care what other people think, I'm going to step out, I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to be courageous and bold, and I'm going to take action towards the joy and fulfillment that I want to create in my life. And nobody else, whatever anybody else thinks, it does not matter. Yeah, it is such a beautiful place to be in.
So how do we do it?
So how do we do it?
What's the magic pill? What's the magic pill?
Well, there's a lot of work or play involved in coming from a place of love, especially love and worthiness for yourself. So when you start to really tune in and tap into your self-love and who you truly are, and I'll explain a bit more about what that means, you start caring less about what other people think. And to do that is self-care, is understanding that you are not what you think you were, that you are born a being of love and light and compassion and kindness, and that you are here on this journey to come from a place of curiosity and to play and to have adventure. So when you look at something from a place of play and adventure and curiosity, and I know curiosity is one of your favorite things to do as well, Claire, when you come from that place, the fear diminishes. When you look at the bigger picture of what can you create by letting go of all that self-sabotage, when you're looking at the big picture and not making it about you, it makes things really so much easier to stop that sabotaging behavior. The first step is actually to become aware, is to really notice how your behaviors and the patterns that you create in your life, where they, how they're affecting your life now and what you can do about it. Yeah. And one of the questions I always ask clients is, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Yeah, that's a really big thing. Do you want to achieve happiness and joy and fulfillment, or do you want to be stuck in your patterns? So it is a choice point. And it takes practice. The ego is a really quite a well-practiced sounding in your ear about what you shouldn't do, because it was trying to keep you safe. But when you make the choice, when you become aware and you make that choice and you make the outcome, holding that outcome loosely, more important, and you come from a place of curiosity and adventure, and you have no interest in creating discord and unease and discomfort, that's when you can, that helps you stop in the self-sabotage. And I talk about discomfort, but it is uncomfortable letting go of those old patterns, being vulnerable, being courageous. It does get uncomfortable, but it's a short time of that kind of discomfort, and then you see the impact and the positive impact and the joy that brings and the happiness that brings.
Yeah, but what I'm reflecting on is that for many people, in terms of transformation, big or small, it feels a lot, to dig deep and to face your fears and to kind of really examine your beliefs and your purpose. But what we're talking about here is something that's kind of at that behavior level, at that quite tactical level and quite short term, isn't it? It's not necessarily this all-encompassing journey. These are small shifts that anybody can make.
Yeah, that's true, because you can make shifts in a second. And it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be dredging up the past, as you say. It doesn't have to be dredging up past trauma or anything like that. It's that awareness of, okay, so one of the things I do is I want to be right all the time.
Yeah.
How about I make a choice and stop doing that? How about I just choose happiness? How about I don't make it important anymore and I just let it go? Because it doesn't matter. And that's a really simple thing to do. And when I ask that question, a lot of people say both. It's like, well, you can't have both. So what do you prefer? Because you can't, you can't prove that you're right and be happy, because that proving you're right brings you frustration and anger and upset with you and whoever you're trying to prove you're right with.
There's and I'm brought back to what you were mentioning about play and curiosity, because you can kind of like, what if I don't? Just for 24 hours, what if I don't? Okay, what happens then? Let's see. Let's experiment. And
yes,
if it fails, but
yeah, I love that, Claire. Yeah, I love that. It's making it really small and easy. Yeah. What if I just try this? What if I think about this as a bit of an adventure, whatever this is?
Yeah.
And what if I am curious instead of fearful?
And when you break it down like that, particularly around relationships and social interactions, you can play different roles with strangers. You go up to your local pharmacy and kind of just be like the happiest person ever and just relax. And when someone asks you how you are, I go, you know what, I'm frigging amazing. Let's do that way.
Yeah.
And let's see how the interaction goes. It's like it's the tiniest of gesture, and you don't really lose anything by playing the game.
But you gain a lot. Yeah, it's like shopping, isn't it? I had a client that would get really take things personally. So there was a particular checkout person that was always quite grumpy. And she thought it was because of her. And she did play a game. We sort of said, well, maybe what if it isn't about you? What if that person pushing you out the way, or, what about you don't make about them? What about if you just think, oh, they're just having a bad day? And you send them a bit of love, or you smile at them and you say hello. What if you're a little bit kinder to somebody that's a bit miserable? Yeah, and you'll see the shifts and changes. I've always gone into shops and smiled and said hello. And the response is always amazing. Yeah. Love that.
And yeah, for sure. And also, I was going to say, and also, you can apply this to different areas. And I think you hear when you have like people talk about manifesting, you hit the driftwood and like the small changes, and they do really snowball. So exercise is a really good example. You get off. How do you kind of get off? Well, I'm going to spend 10 minutes at the gym, see how it goes. And then invariably, once you've spent 10 minutes, it kind of builds from there. But I think it's these behavioral tweaks, these micro changes that we can make throughout the day, which are really empowering and easily forgotten.
Yeah. And if you don't like the gym, go for a walk. Start with a walk.
Or a dance.
Or dance, yes. So, dance to some music in your house. Yeah, like you say, micro changes, because there's so much stuff is overwhelming at the moment in this wonderful, beautiful planet that we live in. I think taking micro steps and one step at a time is really key. And that's something that I'm doing at the moment, even in a crisis.
Well, kind of that's a really big one, because in your life, and I hope you don't mind sharing. We've got your permission to share, but in your life, you have been faced with crisis where your gorgeous Poppy has been in an accident, and yeah, I can't imagine. So Poppy's your...
Yes. So Poppy, our lovely crazy dog, we thought she jumped off a wall. She's got a bit of arthritis in her legs. So she jumped off a wall, and she's got both legs where she's not able to walk properly at the moment. So we took her to the vet. Her foot was really easy. It was just a nasty grass seed that was causing her pain. We thought it was really bad arthritis because she couldn't put any weight on it, but it was a grass seed that got right in there. And her other leg, it's always been a bit stiff over the last few years, and the vet said it was arthritis. And then she jumped off a wall, and we thought she'd pulled a ligament. We took her to the vet we took her into the vet to check, and she had to go in for a minor operation to actually remove this seed because it was so far in, he couldn't get it without a little minor operation, a bit of surgery. And while she was under anesthetic, and that's always a worry anyway when your dog goes under anesthetic, but while she was under anesthetic, he did some really good diagnosis. He took a lot of blood work, he x-rayed her leg, he manipulated her leg and things like that, which she wouldn't let him do without. Anyway, the results are not good. It looks like she has cancer in her back leg, in the bone marrow, and he's found a mass in her stomach, which could be fat. She had a spleen removed 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, but it also could be cancer, especially that she's got cancer in her bone marrow. So we found that out on Tuesday, 2 days ago. And it's costly. And I've also, and as I've shared this before, I've had health issues as well. So I haven't been able to work I haven't been able to work the amount that I wanted to work. So, and Dom's starting a new business. So there is, money is a little bit, as abundant as we are, and we do a lot of manifesting and abundance practices. I got very practical, and I thought, okay, so how are we going to pay for these vet bills? Because we don't have insurance. And I had to get really vulnerable and courageous and make it about Poppy and her, and not about my own ego. So I had to get really vulnerable and tell people how it is, that we are, financially, we're not where we want to be. And I am asking for money. So we've set up a GoFund for Poppy, and I'll put that in the link. But the initial was, do I do this? Do I actually ask people for money? And I made it about Poppy, not about me.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's helping us to help Poppy, but this is not about me. This is not about my financial shame. My money shame, because it's still there, especially with family, interestingly enough, and in my business, because, I'm supposed to be this successful business owner, and I love doing what I do, and it's there, but because of, situations that have occurred, it's happened where we are financially have a cash flow hiccup. And admitting that initially was really hard. And I'm like, it's not important. This is not important. What's more important? What's the bigger picture here? And the response I've received and the support that I have received has been incredible. And in just 2 days, we've raised £770 in 2 days. So and that has really filled our hearts with love, because people do want to help.
Yes.
And they do want to support in whatever way they can. And if they can't support financially, because, it's a bit tricky for most people at the moment financially, for a lot of people, they want to support you with love, with healing, with, hang on, what can we do for you? What do you need? It's just been absolutely amazing. And I think one of the things that we do sabotage ourselves big time is not asking for help. And when you've got that, people want to help, they want to support, they want to encourage you. And it's just been amazing. It really has been, it's been emotional with Poppy. We were able to take her for a little walk yesterday. She's got some really strong painkillers. But there's some decisions that we need to make. There's some more investigation that needs to be done. She needs to go under again for biopsy. And if we decide to go that route, there's a lot of decisions that we need to make. So it's really tough. And then the support, as I say, the support has been amazing. And we've absolutely bowled over with appreciation.
But it's not surprising. Kind of somebody as enlightened and empowering as you, kind of facing this like shame or fear or kind of in my case stubbornness.
It's stubborn, yeah. That's another good that's massive actually from a sabotaging point of view. Stubborn.
Yeah. And it just stops you from opening up to what the universe wants to give you and show you, because you're like, no, I can control it. It's like, just take yourself out of that picture and then let's see what comes. It's just
be open to receiving. It has been a real journey, and it's only the last 3 days, and what we've gained from it is just amazing, really amazing.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Oh, no, thank you, because it's a difficult area to talk about, and again, kind of starting the GoFundMe showed a level of vulnerability. Bringing opening conversation in a way that you have again is just okay. I can do this. I'm comfortable.
And doing that and being vulnerable and courageous, and it has created more ease in that journey. We've not, we could have made it into a big drama and crisis. It's already a crisis. Don't need to dramatize it. Don't need to, because it's already a crisis. So I took a step back from it. I allowed the feelings to come out, to be released. And then I took a step back and I was very practical and like, right, what needs to be done? And micro steps, step by step. And it creates far more ease. And you can choose, even in a crisis, as upsetting and difficult as it is, you can choose to sabotage that and sabotage yourself and your stress levels, or you can choose to create more ease in it. So that's sort of all linked within. When there is a crisis, you don't have to add to it.
And it's I should have gone for another hour talking about forgiveness and stubbornness now.
And there's little Enzo, who's an absolute star. Can we see? For those that are watching on YouTube,
he's up and down.
He's our little mascot, and he's adorable. We all love Enzo. So yes.
So for me, kind of the really big takeaways today are it's really quite a human response, and it doesn't necessarily come from a bad place.
No,
but it can block where you go next, and it can kind of create this false limit to where you go. And this sense of self-sabotage it's a lifelong element of who you are, how you show up, how you grow.
Because it's taken a lifetime for us to be where we are now, and a lifetime to learn the habits and behaviors that they no longer serve, and we no longer need them. So stepping into that, becoming aware and making choices, and coming from curiosity and taking those micro steps each day. What can I do differently today? It will open you up so that you can truly flourish and thrive.
See, I'm really looking forward to this month. We're just going to bash through some blocks and give everybody some real power back
Mm-hmm.
situation, which is exactly what we wanted to do with the podcast. So so we need to look out for your interview with Tony Wang.
Yes. Yeah.
Coming up later.
Actually, that's happened. I did that. See, we haven't been in touch. It's happened. Yay! And yes, that's the previous episode, I believe.
But we've got some other great experts coming through who have got different tactics, because we all take different approaches. And I think for my guest, I'm going to ask him, why do men close down?
Yes, love that. Love that.
We'll be able to answer that.
Yes, yeah, we want to hear it from a male perspective for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. Great.
So hopefully you've gotten as much from this conversation as I have listening, and it's been
me
to
too.
hear from you. And so listeners, if you like what you've heard, you know what to do. Like, listen, subscribe, share, promote, buy a t-shirt. but we've got so much content that's out there, and we cover so many topics. Our aim is to just share our wisdom, our guest wisdom, to help you guys to thrive through the great change.
Thank you, Claire. See you soon.
Bye.